This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Navigating the Now. I'm Suze Casey, the developer of the belief repatterning technique, and I've asked each of our participants, our practitioners, let me try that, our practitioners, wow, I'm gonna have a little quick drink of water here. And you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn that recording off and I'm gonna start it again, Steph, okay? I'll just put it on pause so that
This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, and welcome to Navigating the Now. Each week, I've invited one of our practitioners to join me in just having a chat about how they're being present to what is. And this week, we have Stephanie Wagner with us. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks, Suze. Happy to be here.
So it's been kind of an interesting time, but before we dive into sort of your best ideas around navigating the now, could you share with the folks who are listening a little bit about your belief repatterning journey, how you got started?
My belief repatterning journey started, I wasn't even really aware of it at the time. I met you through some courses that we're both taking, and that was in 2014, 2015. I was running another business that really wasn't speaking to me. I wasn't passionate about. So I eventually wrapped that up in mid 2015 and had all this time available all of a sudden, which was about the time that you were launching the Flip Your Switch weekends and doing the live events with lots of audiences. So I volunteered at your very first Flip Your Switch weekend, and I've been on your team ever since. So that was the start of my introduction to belief repatterning. I became a core team member, so I'm currently the inspiration coordinator behind the scenes. I also stepped into the training that you offer. So I just became certified as a practitioner or licensed as a practitioner. What else can I tell you?
And you're helping lots of people navigate through these kind of interesting times. So I know that there's many gifts from this last year, this COVID time, but what would you say for you would be one of the really maybe poignant or key learnings for you that's happened from this time?
I suppose the personal connections, the face-to-face connections, really, I absolutely treasure those now. They were a key point for me, and making a conscious effort to reach out to friends and family and people that maybe take for granted that you used to see a lot. Now I make a point of reaching out to them. That's a big thing.
This is a big thing, isn't it? Because we did sort of just when you're in the busy world, and I think for a lot of people, this time has given them pause to really consider what's important to them, what they value. And I've noticed that some of the connecting and contacting I used to do, I'm not doing because it's not as inner circle, and I kind of shifted things around, and I think a lot of people have had that experience. It's a really interesting kind of thing to contemplate.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So again, probably more than one, but a challenge that you overcame during COVID that you used belief repatterning to support yourself to move through.
Oh gosh, there's been a few, quite honestly, but there, you may or may not be aware of this, but there was a time when I had a really hard time getting out of bed. There were several weeks there, but I used belief repatterning, made a point of choosing my word of intention of the day, and that really helped to get me moving. Because I was home alone most of the time. My partner was still working for a big part of that, and he would be frontline retail working in an essential service. So I didn't see him at all that much, and I was home by myself. So belief repatterning really helped get me moving and get back to who I know myself to be, back on this side of the line.
Yeah, and I think thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And I think that for all of us, it tipped us off of who we are and our identity and our roles and our it's kind of flipped things around, and it was like, who am I? And trying to find your feet, and belief repatterning way to do that. Now you mentioned the choosing your word. Is there another try this on that you would recommend that people who are listening to something super simple, because the repatterning technique is the 7 steps, and also all these little activities that you can do to just kind of jumpstart yourself and get your feet under you. So what would be one that you really love sharing?
Well, I kind of combined a couple that you always recommend. You talk about winking in the mirror. And winking in the mirror doesn't really do much for me, but smiling at myself in the mirror really does. So anytime I walk by a mirror and I catch my own eye, it's like, oh, hi, there you are. And I made a point of doing that as well. So doorways, getting outside, going for walks outside and breathing in that nature air. That's another one for me. And I've since gotten a dog, which makes going outside a daily habit several times a day. So that was really helpful and supportive too. I don't recommend everybody get a dog, but for me, that's what made a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that COVID time has been a good time for dogs, because a lot of people have discovered that they can use that little extra boost, that little extra incentive to get themselves out and moving. So lovely. All right, so we have a number of people online with us and totally open for questions for Stephanie. So if you have a question or a comment, pop your microphone on and Stephanie will field those. Okay, while we're waiting for people to come up with questions, I have one, and that is, what would you say if somebody that's listening had either themselves or someone they know is having trouble getting out of bed, because there's still a lot of that going on. People are feeling that kind of, even though there's a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, there's a lot of overwhelm and confusion and all that. What would you say would be something that they can, just a pathway that they could follow, a couple of steps?
I'm going to lean on, borrow something that I learned from a client of mine, and what she said was, set yourself up for an easy success. So a success for that day could be putting your feet on the ground. You could still be in bed, but your feet are on the floor. So you're partway out of bed. So little steps, little increments, and then, okay, well, get up, put your robe on, and then go back to bed, like whatever. But little, set yourself up for success. And if that means putting your 2 feet on the ground while you're sitting on the bed, that's success. Give yourself a pat on the back and say, cool, what else can I do? Is there another way forward?
And it's a super, super suggestion, because most people think, if I'm not going to run the marathon, there's no point in getting, I can't, because they're giving themselves too big of a thing. But it's just like one thing, like what's one thing I can do toward, and that they're not small things, they may seem small, they're not huge efforts, but they are a movement in the direction. And one of the things I find really interesting is that, I hear people say things like, so you're talking about getting outside. So one of the things that I decided early on in COVID was that I was going to go outside every day for a walk. Now, it would be really easy for me to say, I haven't done it every day, because I haven't done it every day. I mean, there's 365 plus days now. I haven't done it every day. But you know what? What I did do is I created the habit of it. And I would say that, I may have missed, I don't know, maybe a half dozen or maybe 10 over the year. And I can focus on those that I missed, or I can focus on, I've created the habit of it. And so that just creating the habit of putting your feet on the floor and one thing toward, it's a great suggestion.
Yeah, be easy. Just be gentle with yourself. And I think one of the other things you could do if you find yourself lying in bed, what would you tell a friend of yours who told you that? How would you encourage them? And then speak to yourself the same way. And self-care, just be really kind to yourself.
Yeah, there's been so much changes. Yeah. All right. Any questions or curiosities for Stephanie from the people that are listening to us live? If you're listening to Stephanie and I at a later time on the recording, maybe Stephanie, you can pop in your, do you have a piece of paper handy that you can write your email on, or maybe I can do that for you while you take a question, or why don't you take a question and I will grab a piece of paper?
Okay, that sounds great. Does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Stephanie. This is Allie Saunders. Just out of curiosity of your feeling in, you know, it's been a year that we have been in the COVID time, I call it. And now that, you know, the vaccine rollout is going on, and people are seeing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm also feeling this great sense of how I felt a year ago when it first started, in that we didn't know what was coming and we didn't know for how long. And so how are you navigating with this impending third wave coming, with the variants? People, you know, our numbers are going back up, which is odd to me. However, how are you navigating that aspect of things?
I would say I'm taking it one day at a time. Going inside and just, is this supportive for me to do or not do? And just being aware of what's going on. I'm not rushing out to take on anything, not rushing into anything specifically, just with self-care and taking one day at a time and staying connected. And stay connected with your friends and family and keep yourself safe, keep them safe. Does that answer your question, Allie?
Yeah, it definitely does. I know that for myself, I was lucky enough to be able to get one of the earlier vaccinations due to working in healthcare. And now that my mom has had her first dose, you know, it's just, there's certainly a sense of, oh, I get to hug again. And so, yeah, as that's happening, and I'm sure lots of other people are feeling that way too, and yet I'm still very cautious. And yeah, so yeah, exactly. One little step.
One day at a time. Take a deep breath, one day at a time. We're a year past where we were last year, like at this time last year. So we've made a lot of progress, and there's still a little more work to do. So just hang in there and take it one day at a time.
Thank you.
That's a great suggestion. Is there anyone else who's got a question or a curiosity for Stephanie? Some really solid perspectives there. Well, I'll pick up while someone else is formulating a question. And if somebody wants to just pop it into the chat box, you can do that as well if you're listening live. But one of the things that I wanted to do is just, whoops, let's put it right side up. This is how to get a hold of Stephanie. Okay, high tech way here. So Stephanie, if you want to speak to that, make sure that everybody can read my writing. And
okay, first name Stephanie. Last name Wagoner. It is spelled a little bit differently. There are 2 A's at the end of it. At beliefrepatterning.com. You can also reach me through the beliefrepatterning.com website. I am listed there as a practitioner, so you can reach me through that. And then that's my cell phone number, so you can call or text me there. And I'm not sure what else to say to that, but happy to support you guys.
Right, and what kind of you know, that's how people get a hold of you. And what kind of work do you really love doing? I mean, all of the belief repatterning practitioners can do all kinds of things, but you've got a real area of that's a strong love. I think you share that with listeners. That would be great.
My background is small business and entrepreneurship. I've got a degree in that through Mount Royal University, and in conjunction with U of C, it was an applied degree at the time. But I just absolutely love entrepreneurship and working with small business owners, medium-sized business owners. And one of my superpowers is being able to offer other perspectives, other ways of looking at things, that, which can be really empowering for business owners. Because sometimes you get so wrapped up in what you're doing, what they're doing, they can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. And that's where my strengths really shine. But I also have a really strong understanding of how business works. So you don't need to explain to me that part of it, but my focus is on building up your mindset And as a business owner, strengthening, lifting you up, because when you as a business owner are lifted up, your entire team and your business is lifted up at the same time. So that lifts me up.
Absolutely. And what would you say are some of the things that are facing entrepreneurs and small business owners right now that they're having to learn to navigate, that you can support and help them with? What would be some of the issues, the challenges, the problems that they're experiencing?
Well, shifting to online. Their customers are no longer coming to them specifically in person. So helping them make that shift up here so that the actual physical shift is easier for them to navigate. But that's definitely one of the challenges that business owners are now facing. Keeping their staff on the upside of the line, empowered, positive, and that's where the whole mindset comes in. Speaking positively, helping them with language.
Yeah, and I can speak because you have helped me a lot. I can speak specifically to you're really good at helping people remember why they're doing what they're doing and why it's important to them and why it makes their heart sing and why it gets them out of bed in the morning and all of those things. And so it would be another place, because I think that a lot of business owners right now are really questioning, because they were doing things in a certain way, and then a lot of us just kind of put things on hold thinking it was going to blow over pretty quickly. And then it was like, okay, it's not going to blow over, so we need a contingency plan. And now it's like a kind of, how do we move forward from here? And I know that you are really good at helping people get that clear vision based on their burning passions.
Yeah, and helping them refocus. Like, what is it you're trying to do? What is your why? I've done several presentations on what is your why for personal and for business purposes based on some work by Simon Sinek. So helping people define that. And that's something else I love to do.
Awesome. Any further questions coming from anyone who's listening? We'll give you one more shot. And while we're waiting for that to pop up, again, you can get a hold of Stephanie through the Belief Repatterning website, beliefrepatterning.com. Go to the team, and there's her email directly, Stephanie Watanaar at beliefrepatterning.com, and 403-471-8707 to connect directly with Stephanie. All right, I'm not seeing anyone else popping on with a question. And so just to close, Stephanie, what would you love to make sure that people know about what you bring to the world? Oh, there we go. What is one tip to bring a personal business to an online platform? Okay.
I would say my one tip is find out where your clients are. Define your perfect client or your favorite client and write out the demographics. Where do they hang out? So if they love hanging out on Facebook, that's the platform that I would suggest you use. If they're more professional, less social, maybe LinkedIn is how you connect with them. So think about who your perfect client is, and if you have a favorite client, where do they hang out? And define that first, and then you can choose the correct platform for online connection with them.
That's, yeah, rather than trying to be everything to everybody all the time, because there's too much, right? And so that's a great suggestion to bring that focus. So in closing, Stephanie, anything that you want to say to the folks that are listening, the people that are business owners that may be connecting with you? How do they navigate the now?
Be gentle with yourself. Take a deep breath. We're all experiencing this together, and we might be facing different things, but just be gentle with yourself. But
human beings are resilient, and business owners are super resilient and creative, and this is a great time for people to be creative. They just need to get their mindset clicked in, and you're awesome at helping people do that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today, and thank you all for listening in on Navigating the Now. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you.